thank you, Evans, for taking your time
My
speaking
pleasure.
with us. If I might ask you, could you just introduce yourself to our fans?
I am a former senior American diplomat. I worked for the better part of 40 years in the State Department, and actually I've worked on Asia-related matters for over 55 years. I'm an expert, or I try to be an expert, on China, Taiwan, Japan, South Korea, and North Korea. For about the last 15 or 20 years, my major focus has been on North Korea, the nuclear issue. I have extensive experience, painful experience, negotiating with the North Koreans for thousands of hours on the nuclear issue. I'm originally from New York City. I grew up in New York City on the streets of New York. And I like to tell people that some of the best training that I ever had to become a diplomat was growing up on the streets of New York, because you get a lesson in conflict resolution, you get a lesson in how to deal with different languages and cultures, and it's a very rough and tumble experience, but it's a fantastic experience. So in addition to that, I'm a former baseball player. I played baseball for many years in the United States. And when I turned 65 years old, I won't tell you how long ago that was, I decided I wanted to become a jazz musician. And I did.
I love that journey.
I play several instruments.
I love that journey. It's never too late to start, right? So thank you for the rough overview. Yeah. I know there's so much more about you, but we will dig deeper in that.
I won't tell you the dark secrets.
Perfect, thank you. We just followed a panel discussion where you participated, and
yes,
we talked about that we are at the brink of a trade war, a global trade war.
Yeah.
And taking the younger generation into consideration, because a trade war obviously affects us, how do you paint the picture of our lives as the younger generation in 10 to 20 years of time?
Wow, that's a big question. I hope this doesn't go on for 20 years. I don't think it will. I think that what has just been launched yesterday on the so-called Liberation Day of the United States, a really unfortunate term, is something that is so profoundly wrong and ill-advised that it cannot help but fail in the end. I think it's going to be very important for Europe and other American trading partners to organize themselves, to work through back channels, to work quietly, but also to work openly and make it clear that this is not only unfair, it's unacceptable, it's intolerable. This is not the way that modern, sophisticated friends should be working together. This is really inappropriate. And it's actually insulting, quite frankly, when you think about it. It's going to require a lot of unity on the part of Europe, as well as our other trading partners. But I think a very strong message has to be sent to Donald Trump that people are outraged about this, and there are various groups in countries that are going to be very negatively affected by this. Lower income people, tariffs are paid not by the foreign countries that you put them on, they're paid by importers, and they're ultimately paid by your own citizens. And so poor, younger people in the United States are going to suffer from this. Poor, younger people in Europe are going to suffer by this. And some not so poor people are going to suffer from this as well. And so this is going to be a burden that all of society is going to have to bear, but it's also going to be a burden that I think a lot of young people are going to have to bear for at least the next few months, the next few years or so, until I hope that Donald Trump will see the error of his ways. Keep in mind that this is something that's being done very unilaterally by a single man who happens to be President of the United States. But if you were to ask the average American on the street and have an interview like this and a conversation with them, they wouldn't support this, because I think they understand what's coming. And what's coming is going to be a lot of suffering for them. And as I said, young people in particular are going to be burdened with this. This is going to be kind of the equivalent of the burden that young people had to bear during the COVID-19 process, where it really left a scar, if you will, on a generation of young people.
Definitely.
This is going to leave a scar, and that's unfortunate. It shouldn't be happening.
I can completely agree with you. Obviously, as a member of the younger generation, it's really devastating to look how the globalized world crumbles to some extent.
Yes,
and
yes,
it's really it's not in the best interest of the next generations
No.
what's happening right now.
No.
So thank you for sharing that and also giving insights on that. Listening to you and also listening to the panel discussion, I kind of got a feeling that a win-win, the time of win-win is over. When we listen to students in university and negotiation courses in university, the only thing they learn is a win-win negotiation. You always have to know your partner and you have to find the common ground, you have to make the pie bigger.
Yeah.
Would you say that the rules of negotiation have changed?
No. I don't think that the laws of international economic gravity have been suspended, to put it a different way. For a country or a man to adopt a win-lose approach to negotiations is a process that's only going to create ill will, it's going to create resentment, it's going to create enemies. You may win today, but the result of this process will be that you will have so alienated the person that you are dealing with that at some point, when they have the power, when they have the opportunity, they will come back and they will strike back in some fashion.
Okay.
So I don't think the days of win-win negotiation are over. I think Donald Trump, in his own heart and mind, would like them to be.
Yeah.
He's certainly adopting that kind of an approach. But if Europe can stay united and become even more united, if Europe can work together with other key partners, such as Mexico and Canada and South Korea and Japan, that's a pretty formidable group of people that can push back against this and remind Donald Trump that his voice is not the only voice that matters.
I love
and
that.
there are other voices out there. They need to be heard.
I love that. So we stay curious of what happens if the European Union stays strong as they are right now, or even stronger, hopefully. We teach our students at the Falk Academy that we believe in win-win, but we don't bet on it. How would you?
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that's fair. I mean, there are some moments in history where you realize that a win-win negotiation is not going to work or is not possible, and you have to resort to other means. But those are rare cases. Those are unusual cases, and you don't really want to have to go there. And I'm speaking as a diplomat. My job was to avoid war, not to start one.
Yes.
And so, to the extent possible, I was always trying to figure out what it was that I could achieve and what it was that I could provide my adversary that would create some kind of a win-win structure to allow us both to walk away from the table satisfied that we hadn't gotten everything that we wanted, but we got most of what we wanted.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that's just to having an eye on the realistic target, right? I think that's important. And thank you so far. And just last but not least, what would be your main tips for the younger generation? What can we take away from your experience going forward and presenting as a unified younger generation negotiating for a better world?
First piece of advice is don't get old.
I'll try my best.
My motto in life, and I think you'll appreciate this in particular, is a line from a Bob Dylan song. The song is called My Back Pages. And the refrain of the song goes, I was so much older then, I'm younger than that now. I try to keep my mind very young, very young and very active and very open, and try not to get too set in my ways. That's just my personal approach to life. But advice, languages and cultures. You are always sitting across the table from somebody who either doesn't speak the same language or comes from a different culture, even if it's a different business culture.
Yes.
Always. So understand where that person is coming from. Understand what's motivating that person. And we Americans have a reputation for not reaching out to other cultures. We're very self-centered. We kind of look at ourselves in the mirror all the time, and we don't learn the languages, we don't learn the cultures. I'm not that way at all. I speak Chinese, Japanese, Korean, my terrible New York English, and now I speak Spanish.
Amazing.
And for many, many decades, I focused on the need to understand where the person across the table was coming from. His language or her language, the culture, the ideas, the context in which their thinking is formed.
Yes.
And once I understood that, I felt that I had an advantage at the negotiating table because I didn't have to waste a lot of time finding out what was in the heart and the mind of the person I was talking to. So the languages, the culture, in the broadest sense, that's number one. And number two is to remember that creating trust, if you can, is really important to a successful negotiation. But if you can't create the level of trust that you want and the level of trust that you need, at least try to create a level of confidence in the other party that what you say is what you mean and that what you promised can be delivered upon. Really important.
I like
really
the differentiation between trust and confidence into your world.
Yeah.
I love that. Well, thank you so much for giving us your
My pleasure.
insights. And we will learn more about diplomacy and politics in our major in Falk Academy. Maybe you will be part of it.
I would be.
We still have to negotiate about that.
If you surround me with a bunch of young people who are curious and interested in learning, I'll be the happiest man in the world.
We can do that. Thank you, Evans.
All right, good to see
Thank
you.
you.
Good to see you.